Opiyo Wandayi is the Cabinet Secretary for Energy and Petroleum. He's here because today the Nation Petroleum Summit is taking place at the Radisson Blu Hotel from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and where they discuss petroleum matters, the future of petroleum in Kenya, fueling Kenya's growth. Waziri, good morning.
Good morning, Eric and team.
Karibu sana. This is where we fix the nation one conversation at a time, like the next one we're about to have.
It's a pleasure being here.
Yeah.
I've always looked forward to attending this particular session.
Karibu.
Yes.
That day has come.
Like here is the day.
Hayawi hayao. Mshowe huwa. Yeah, to welcome you to the conversation, Janet will give you the day's quote. Listen to the quote and the person who said it, and let's hear whether the quote relates with what you do.
So Dr. Obiageli Ezekwesili, she's known as Madam Due Process when she was a minister in Nigeria. She's a renowned Nigerian economist and governance reformer, and we had her on the show. And one of the things she said is, integrity is not complete until it is consistent. Integrity is not complete until it is consistent. You agree?
Totally. It must be a way of life. Yes.
Integrity
it must be ingrained in the mindset. Yes, it must be embedded in your day-to-day operations. Yes.
Yeah. Do you think we're having an integrity crisis in the country?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Well, you see, there are episodes here and there, but the sum total cannot be equated to lack of integrity. Yes.
Well, if it's not consistent, then it's lack of integrity.
You see, you cannot equate a country to a person. Yes, because integrity is more about a person. Yes, it is inborn. Yes.
Do you think we have more people with integrity than those without integrity?
That will
or
be
is it the other way around?
That will be speculation.
From your own observation, like I can tell you, I think it's the other way around. We have fewer people with integrity in this country.
It will be a matter of personal judgment. Yes, because as a public officer, I interact with people of all walks of life, of all shades of opinion on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Yes, it boils down really again to the person. Yeah, it would be unfair to sum it all that the country is lacking in integrity because of one or two persons. Yes, out there. As you see, the government is doing all it can to steer the ship of the state. Yes.
Okay. Remember, we are not asking about the government, we're talking about the people.
But you say, Eric, when you see me here, you must see me as part of government.
As part of government?
Yes, yes.
Very good. So, as part of government, Waziri, you know, today there's a lot of anger because of this death, arrests, and then unexplained death of Albert Omondi Ojwang. Picked up in Migori, brought to Nairobi, and then within a few hours, he's dead. And he's got head injuries. And the explanation from the police initially was, well, he hit his head on the wall. And then later, there's been interdiction of police officers. What's going on?
No, obviously, first and foremost, I must extend my condolences to the family and friends of the gentleman, the young man, Albert Ojwang.
Yeah.
And secondly, I want to appreciate the fact that as we speak, we are not privy to all the details surrounding his untimely or unfortunate demise. But having said so, it's also important to appreciate the fact that the government, through the National Police Service, has issued a preliminary statement that was done yesterday. That is pending full investigations. That statement was issued as a preliminary measure because investigations, as I understand it, are underway. We can only then comment authoritatively once the investigations are complete. But I must also commend the police because as a first step, the IG of police has actually suspended the key officers within the service who might have been aware of the happenings or should have taken some action around the unfortunate demise of this gentleman. So what I can say for now is to basically appeal for calm as we await these investigations to be completed. Yeah, appeal for calm and understanding, yes, from all Kenyans and especially the family and friends of this young man. Yeah.
I don't know, I find the calls for calm are a little too little too late, because I think calm should have been exercised much earlier, don't you think? Whether it was by the police officers that arrested him, by the state in many incidences, I don't know, I feel like it's a bit too little too late to call for calm. No?
Usually, when such incidents occur, they evoke a lot of emotions, naturally, and until and unless you get to understand the circumstances, first and foremost, surrounding his arrest and how eventually he met his death, is going to be very difficult to comment. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, with authority.
We'll continue to follow the story.
Yes.
Thank you for that. The Petroleum Summit kicks off today. Whenever I hear petroleum, I'm like, why are our fuel prices so high? Higher than neighboring countries. Is fuel tax part of the issue? First, let's start with why are our fuel prices high? What can we do to ease that burden from Kenyans as we just go into some of the matters that you're going to discuss at the summit?
First and foremost, let me say a big thank you to the Nation Media Group for accepting to host this inaugural Nation Petroleum Summit, a first of its own kind. And it is going to be an eye-opener, if you ask me, since this summit is going to bring together, under one roof, stakeholders in the oil petroleum sector who will be going about reviewing how far we have come as a sector, where we need to go, and how we need to get there. So a big thank you to National Media Group, and we look forward to a very, very successful summit today at Radisson Blue. I hope you'll be joining us, you guys.
Of course.
At some point, yes.
At some point, yes. And having said that, let me appreciate again the fact that the matter of petroleum products and their prices are a factor of many variables. Yes. First and foremost, you must understand that Kenya as a country relies 100% on oil imports so far.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm sure you are aware of the fact that we did discover some oil some time back.
Yes.
In the South Lokichar Basin, in Turkana County. We are yet to commercially exploit those resources. I will be explaining shortly why. And therefore, as a country, we still depend on 100% imports of these very, very important products. And Kenya is also, of course, the gateway to the countries in the region, especially the Great Lakes region, in terms of imports are concerned. And therefore, it goes without say that there are global factors, international factors that come into play, which factors we have got no control over insofar as the prices of oil is concerned. But then there are other two factors other than the global factors, okay? Global factors, of course, just impact on the landed coast at the port. The other factors include, one, the logistics. So once the petroleum products land at the port of Mombasa, they have to be handled through logistics, and that is where Kenya Pipeline Company comes in. As you know, Kenya Pipeline Company is a wholly government-owned entity, and it has done very, very well in the recent years. I must commend the management and board of Kenya Pipeline Company. It is the entity that then handles the logistics in terms of storage and transportation of the oil products to the eventual consumers. That plays a big role in the cost, and you will see how. Because if we manage the cost of handling the oil products, then it can impact positively on the pump price. Okay? And that's why we are very keen on how Kenya Pipeline Company is managed and how it goes about its business.
Okay.
The third one, of course, you know, is the taxes and levies,
Yes.
which is outside the ambit of my ministry. It's a function of Parliament. Parliament in its wisdom, okay? From time to time, of course, enacts legislation to bring forth taxation and levies. Yes. So, but all in all, the government has done great by ensuring that even though consumers still, of course, complain about the high cost of petroleum products, we must appreciate that there has been no shortage of the petroleum products in this country for as long as you can recall.
Yeah.
Yes,
There's consistent supply.
Yes.
very, very consistent supply of this very vital product. If you ever happen to travel outside this country, and especially to many African countries,
You'll find shortages.
We cannot be at
yes.
listing though, Waziri.
Yes.
And I want to look at what you've just said. The cost of transporting, the fuel, the levies and all. I think you should have inverted that. The highest cost for us at the pump is taxes and levies.
Yeah.
This is the current fuel price as announced by April on the 14th of May. And we are going to project it shortly. Landed costs of petroleum at the port of Mombasa was 76 shillings and 72 cents. We are buying it in Nairobi at 174 shillings and 63 cents. What is the difference? The difference, 174.63 minus 76.72 is 97 shillings and 91 cents. That is the difference between offloading this from the ship for the vessel in Mombasa and pumping it into your vehicle in Nairobi. Super petrol today. The highest cost, taxes and levies, 80 shillings and 50 cents of that. What you're saying, distribution and storage costs are only 15 shillings and 24 cents. Distribution and storage, which is transport pipeline from Mombasa to Nairobi, 2 shillings and 79 cents. We are not charging road transport on fuel. Pipeline losses at 0.05 shillings. Depot losses at 0.67 shillings, that's 67 cents. Delivery within 40 kilometers of Nairobi, it's only 86 cents. Storage and distribution total is 4 shillings and 37 cents. Storage and distribution costs, what you're calling pipeline plus road plus all, is only 4 shillings and 37 cents. Fuel, taxes and levies, excise duty 21 shillings 95 cents. Road maintenance levy 25 shillings. Petroleum development levy 5 shillings and 40 cents. Petroleum regulatory levy 75 cents. Railway development levy 1 shilling and 46 cents. And merchant shipping levy 3 cents. Import declaration fee, 1 shilling 82 cents. VAT, 24 shillings and 9 cents. All this, Waziri, brings the taxes and levies at 80 shillings and 50 cents more than that, getting that fuel from the Middle East, putting it on a ship, paying for insurance, paying the ship, bringing it all the way to the Mombasa port is cheaper than what the government is taking in fuel and taxes and levies. Surely.
Well, you know, Eric, I agree with you. That is really the situation. But first and foremost, let me just pick on one of the levies you mentioned there.
Yes.
The Petroleum Development Levy.
Yes.
The famous PDL. That is actually the money that we use to stabilize our prices. As you know, prices are bound to fluctuate based on the other factors beyond our control. So I don't want our consumers, the public, to be bombarded by fluctuations in price that would therefore affect their planning, okay, and day-to-day economic activities. So that's why that levy is critical. That if in the event that the prices were to shoot so high, then it comes in to stabilize the price, and therefore the consumer gets some predictable price range. That is one. But more importantly, Eric, you know, the government must meet its obligations, day-to-day obligations. Governments are put in place to provide services, okay, to its citizens. Those services are not free, they cost money. And therefore, in its wisdom, government through parliament from time to time levies, puts in place levies and taxes. So I don't want to dwell on the wisdom, okay?
Of Parliament.
Of Parliament behind the imposition of those taxes.
But is there
okay?
any behind
in
the
fact,
scenes lobbying?
one of those taxes, one of those levies, the road development.
It's called road maintenance.
Road maintenance, yes.
25 shillings.
Yes, it's actually proposed from the Ministry of Roads, okay, and Transport. It goes a long way in maintaining our road infrastructure. So if you want to scrutinize those taxes and levies, you will establish for sure that they play a role in our overall economic development and growth. Right. So I'm not saying they are too low or they are too high, but what I'm saying is that they are necessary, okay? We can debate how far high they should go or how far low they should go. Yes, but it's just important to explain that they are important insofar as our assurance of essential services to the people is concerned.
Right.
Yes.
Is there any push from the ministry to have a reduction or a change in the administration of these taxes to perhaps help lower our fuel prices? That's part one. Then part two is the fuel subsidy has been on and off, then on. Initially the president did away with it, brought it back. Is it a sustainable long-term way to subsidize and stabilize our fuel prices?
We don't really actually have what we call a subsidy as such. Yes.
We pay for it.
Yeah. what we do actually, we stabilize the prices from the PDL, okay? And the conversation about whether we need to vary these levies and taxes is an ongoing one. It's a continuous one. Even this budget cycle, you will hear more of it, okay? When the finance bill is going to be on the table, you will hear more of this, and therefore it's a conversation which must continue. It must continue, yes, because actually as government, our concern is an assured supply, consistent supply of petroleum products at affordable cost. Yes, at affordable cost. Now, affordability is relative.
It is.
Yes.
Yes, at affordable cost. But we must appreciate, yes, that we, as government, we have really stabilized this sector. More than 2 years ago, there was chaos. Actually, I must credit His Excellency President William Ruto, because when he came to power, we were on the verge of actually experiencing serious fuel shortages on account of shortage of foreign exchange. Okay? And that's why the president came up with his team with an ingenious way of managing the fuel importation. And this is what gave birth to the now famous G2G arrangement.
Which you were a critic of.
Government to government
Yes.
arrangement. I could have been a critic of,
First, but now,
perhaps.
yeah.
But now I've got a deep understanding of what it entails. Yes, in fact, I am its strongest supporter as we speak. Yes.
Why were you a critic before?
Yeah.
What was...
I've told you. Yes.
No, why were you? What was... I know it's working now, but it's important to know maybe perhaps in a sentence or two.
You know when you are in the opposition, you criticize on the basis of information you have. Okay? And many times you have very scanty information. Yes. But now that I'm an insider in government, I'm actually leading the petroleum energy docket. I understand that the G2G arrangement was a smart move, okay? Because it has actually made us save on foreign exchange, and it has actually helped us to stabilize the forex.
For Ramonanchi, just give them an overview of what these G2G agreements look like.
Well, you see, what it entails largely, without going into details, is that the government of Kenya entered into an arrangement with the international oil companies, okay, who would then nominate local oil marketing companies, okay, and there would be a 6-month window for payment for this product.
Right.
Yes, and that has happened, and the local OMCs would pay in Kenya shillings as opposed to the previous
US dollars.
US dollars. It's a long story, but the long and short is that it has enabled us to guarantee supply of this product, and also to help us save on foreign exchange. Yes.
But initially there was no understanding, right? There was little information that was coming, especially to those that ought to oversight the government. You are leader of the minority in the National Assembly. And if the leader of minority was not getting proper information for him to support it, that tells you there's a big problem there.
You know, Eric, we must understand also that the leader of minority or leader of opposition has got no obligation to support government initiatives. I'm sure you know that. Okay? Yes.
So you're opposing for the sake of it?
And not for the sake of it, I've just said yes. And therefore, he would use the information that is available to him. Okay? On the face of it, really, because it's not the duty of the leader of minority to, yes.
To look for information.
Yes. And not look for information and be able to defend their government position. Yeah. But it is my duty as a cabinet secretary to understand what goes on in my docket and to espouse government policy, okay, with regard to what is in my docket. And that's why I'm saying that with the benefit of hindsight, okay, I can say without any fear of contradiction that this was a smart move and it has helped the country survive through very difficult times. Very difficult times. Remember, Kenya is a very, very key hub in the region.
Yeah.
Yes, most of our neighboring countries depend on us even for this oil and petroleum imports. Yeah.
Are you concerned that then perhaps it means we're not even getting half of the information? We don't have as much insight. That's where you are coming from. Is that if in opposition, okay,
that a leader of opposition would say, I don't have an obligation to. Yes, you do. That's why we put you in parliament to oversight the executive, to get all the information that you ought to get. But let's continue with that shortly.
I agree with you. I don't want to be interrogated on the basis of my former role.
We need to go into a break. I know Mariam has a question that she's been waiting to ask you, and this is some proposal from the World Bank on some new tax. But let's take a break. So we have the Nation Petroleum Summit, first of its kind, like the CSS, taking place today at the Radisson Blue Hotel in Upper Hill from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can make way there to attend it. The Cabinet Secretary for Energy and Petroleum, Opiyo Wandayi, is our guest. We're talking about that. We're talking about fueling Kenya's growth, the future of petroleum in Kenya. Keep it here for that. We'll be back shortly.
And of course, we are in studio with Honorable Opiyo Wandayi discussing matters energy and petroleum. And we're talking about the Petroleum Summit that is going to be happening. And we're discussing how to break down that 100 and how much do we pay for fuel now? 176 shillings, right? We're doing that breakdown, but we also wanted to go into a lot of other factors that contribute to our high energy costs, some of the proposals that we hear from here and there about what we should be taxing as far as energy is concerned. But Eric, I know you wanted to finish up on the cost of that energy, and Jano, I know you had also a question
before you come in with the World Bank Fund.
Before we go into the World Bank.
No, I think I know there was a question that was hanging about Turkana. I don't know if we can just briefly go over that. We have quite a bit of ground to cover, but just a brief update on why it's never 13 years. Hasn't it not been 13 years or so?
2000 and?
Yeah, I think it's been.
Let's just say Kiraito was a minister. Today, Kiraito is chairman of National Oil.
Right.
Kibaki was the president.
Okay. When we discovered oil.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, development of petroleum fields, as it were, takes time. Because a lot of things need to be put together. Initially, of course, there was a consortium that was managing this sector, the Tallow Oil, Africa Oil, and Total, Kenya.
Yeah.
Total, generally. Later on, of course, that consortium unraveled, and Tallow Oil was left alone. So it went about looking for a strategic investor to be able to commercially progress the production of the oil in the South Lokichar Basin. So in the process of looking for a strategic partner, which the government was actually supporting in the background, Tallow Oil got an offer from Gulf Oil Kenya. And the long and short of this story is that as we speak, Gulf Oil Kenya is buying off Tallow oil, the Kenyan interest, the Kenyan business of tallow oil. We are hopeful that the Gulf Oil is going to put together the necessary financial resources, financial and technical resources, to move that project to the next level. And once we are convinced as government or as a ministry that Gulf Oil has got the capacity to move to the next level, we are going to approve what is referred to as the Field Development Plan, the FDP, that would then open the doors for the next commercial phase of this very vital project. So we are very, very, very hopeful as a government from where we sit that this time round we shall have commercial production of oil in the South Lokichar Basin in Turkana County. As a matter of fact, we are looking at, by end of next year, by end of 2026, at least to have a barrel getting out of South Lokichar heading to the coast for export. A barrel of crude oil. Yes.
I look forward to it. I've heard...
It's something that we are really excited about.
Right.
Yes, and I'll be most honored and grateful if, under my watch, if during my tenure, I would oversee the export of crude oil from the South Lokichar Basin.
Right.
Exporting crude oil is one thing, Waziri. Sorry, Mariam. But, so we export it. We don't have a refinery plant in Kenya. We don't have a pipeline that can export it. So we'll be tracking this thing all the way from Lokichar to Mombasa to export it. And then we go and buy refined oil to bring it back to Kenya. I mean...
Well, Eric, that's a conversation that is underway. But remember, we also depend on scientific data from experts. As it is, we have been convinced, beyond doubt, that it is more economical, it's more cost-effective to have that crude oil taken out for refining. Then we can continue importing our white product. Okay? I know it will be simplistic to say that why can't we just then establish a refinery, say in Turkana, or revive the Kenya pipeline refinery in Kenyan Petroleum refinery in the coast. In Changamwe. That is not feasible based on the numbers that we are privy to. So I think for now, let us work on developing commercially that resource in South Lokichar.
Sorry, Mariam, before you come in, just still on that, there was a proposal to establish a refinery off the coast of Mombasa that would serve the region as well, so that you can be importing crude, bring it to the coast, refine it, and then sell it locally and serve this region.
You know, Eric, where we are heading to as the world, all that kind of investment must be private sector driven. Private sector is very, very rational in terms of where it puts its money. Okay, I'm sure you're aware of another refinery being established in Uganda. Okay, yes, there must be a threshold of the volumes that a refinery would handle for it to be cost effective.
Okay.
Yes, that's why I'm trying to avoid that conversation here.
Okay.
Yes, but what is critical for the country is that we are able to exploit the South Lokichar resources and have it exported. That resource is not useful to anybody once it so long as it continues to stay underneath the surface of the earth.
Very
okay?
true.
Not to the Turkana people, not to the Kenyans generally. It's my duty as the head of the ministry to ensure that that resource is taken out of the soil and turned into money.
Yes.
Hopefully soon. There was, the question on World Bank proposals that we introduce a carbon tax, giving how much? 20 billion in revenue, I think, if I've got the number correctly, to add about 40 billion shillings in revenue annually. That was a proposal by the World Bank. And I'm always of the opinion that a carbon tax, we already overtaxed one, but what's your thought on this proposal? Because it will fall under your purview, even if it's Mamboya environment.
No, it will not actually fall under my purview. It will be directly under the purview of the National Treasury. And I think it remains a proposal. It remains a proposal. The good thing with proposals is that once they are put on the table, people get an opportunity to therefore to converse. Yes, to ventilate. And that's exactly what's going to happen.
Okay.
So for now, let me not preempt anything around that space.
He's basically said no further comment. No further comment.
No further comment.
Is it true? Kenya boasts over 90% renewable energy on its grid. Is that accurate?
Actually, it's more than 90%.
More than 90. It's a
about
very
93%.
impressive figure. How does that then translate to the access that we're trying to talk about? Affordable and reliable access, especially for rural and marginalized communities. So you have this big, impressive number, but we have to think about the people who require this access on a day-to-day basis. So try and
Yes, I
draw that for us.
will say this. Yeah, that Kenya obviously is a blessed country. What has pushed that number to 93%, which is the highest in the region, by the way, highest in the region, is our blessing as a country of geothermal resources and hydro power resources, okay, which are some of the baseload sources of energy in our national grid. So Kenya boasts a lot of geothermal resources. In fact, almost 10,000 megawatts worth. Okay? We have so far exported only about 1,000 or so. Okay? That gives us an edge. It gives us a leverage as a country to be able to push our green composition to that level. But that is not enough.
Yeah.
Again, you know, of course, we have got wind power and solar power, which occasionally we exploit. But again, for wind power and solar power, you must understand that they remain what technical people would refer to as intermittent sources, not so reliable. And therefore, as we expand our energy generation capacity, we must strike a very delicate balance between these baseload sources, that is geothermal and hydro, and the intermittent sources, that is solar and wind. So we must strike a balance and end up with a mix which is sustainable and reliable.
Okay.
But having said that, it is one thing to have that kind of renewable energy mix and actually to even expand the generation capacity of the same. But it's a different thing to have that power get to those who need it. And that is really part of our work as a ministry. So continually we modernize, we expand our energy transmission and distribution infrastructure
Right.
to be in tandem with the generation capacity expansion, and of course to be in tandem with the demand, the ever-increasing demand of energy by the populace.
We have a lot of questions also coming in on YouTube, and we'll get to them in just a bit. But before that, I wanted to get into electricity a little bit, and anything that's being done to make sure that electricity is a bit more affordable for Kenyans all around, for commercial purposes, and of course for residential purposes. Yes.
Well, okay. Actually, I was just answering it in advance.
No, I get that. But
Yes.
when we talk about the measures that you've put in place or that are being worked on, there's the feeling that it's not trickling down quick enough. You get what I mean? For rural Kenyans especially.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, first and foremost, of course, we have to deal with the matter of availability. Okay? Is it available? When you go to your house, can you access power? When you get to your factory, can you access power? Reliably, sustainably. Okay? But secondly, if you can access it, what is the cost? At what cost are you accessing it? You see? That's our duty to manage as a ministry.
Okay.
So, therefore, to answer the question of the cost, you must look at then what constitutes the cost, or what contributes to the cost, eventual cost of power. Without going into details, as a ministry, we are focused on dealing with one factor, which we think is very critical, and that is commercial and technical losses in the supply chain.
Okay.
Okay? And that's why we have to continually modernize our infrastructure for transmission and distribution. Because a lot of energy is lost through that process of transmission and distribution.
Yeah.
If you have got decaying infrastructure, you will definitely lose power. As we speak, we are about 20, we are losing about 24%, which is fairly high.
It's too much.
Fairly high. Okay. If we just rein in that and reduce it to even 15%, you would see the impact on the price of the energy or the electricity in your meter. So that is what we are doing. It's not one bullet thing. It's a process. It's a process. What is key is that we are conscious. We are conscious as a ministry of what needs to be done. Okay, and that's why we seek the support of Kenyans. Yes. Okay. Well, that's why we seek the support of investors, private investors, to put in their money. Yes, in our energy transmission line projects, in our distribution line projects.
You're alluding to PPPs.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
A comment here from my prince. When President was in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, he said he will not proceed with oil exploration to conserve the environment. Has the position changed? That's what he said.
I'm not sure he's quoting the president correctly. Yes.
When the president was in Saudi Arabia, he spoke about that. He talked about prioritizing the push for renewable energy over extraction.
That is certainly true. Our focus, and indeed, in line with our commitment in the Paris Agreement as a country, is to consistently move towards green energy. Okay. Which, as I've mentioned, we are doing very well on that front. But we must be alive to the fact that in the interim period, we must still do with fossil fuels. Okay? And that's why we insist that even as we do with the fossil fuels in the interim period, we must find innovative ways of decarbonizing our operations and processes. Okay? That is really the point here. Yes, oil and petroleum products are going to continue to play a critical role in our economic development, not just as a country, but as a region, really. Yes.
I was actually looking at the agenda for the Petroleum Summit, and there's a presentation on leveraging oil and gas in our green energy transition.
Correct.
What does that look like? Perhaps just an overview of those creative ways you're talking about.
Yes, it's basically saying, in short, that even as we transition, okay, we must look for innovative ways of exploiting the oil and gas resources. For instance, we are encouraging now the LPG gas consumption.
Okay.
LPG is a fairly less carbon source of energy. And as we, cleaner, of course, as we encourage its uptake, we are reducing on the dependence on biomass, okay, which is a high carbon intensive, source of energy. So you see, that way we are actually mitigating the effect of fossil fuel.
Right.
Yes, on the environment. It's a bit delicate balance.
It is.
Yes, because the economy must grow. At the same time, we also have obligations under the Paris Agreement and other international conventions to reduce on our carbon emissions. Yes.
Yeah. I'm looking at the fact that this is 1,000 days in office, and I'm wondering whether there's anything that you could term as a big win, the biggest win in the 1,000 days, and the biggest regret when it comes to the energy sector.
There are so many big wins.
Wow. And regret, he completely was like,
no.
Let's start with the wins, then we go to regret.
Do you know that for the first time we are not importing any maize in the country? Because of the production of maize having been increased exponentially in the last 2 or 3 years as a result of the fertilizer subsidy program. Kenya is essentially now a maize-sufficient country. In fact, in the next couple of years, we should be talking about Kenya being a net exporter of maize.
True. We had actually profiled a few of those.
We are also going ahead, indeed, to be a net exporter of sugar in the next couple of years.
Yeah. We wanted to zero in on the ones in the energy sector. We had actually profiled a few of those, the big wins at the beginning of the show. Yes.
That is true, yes. But you see, in the energy sector, I've been belaboring since I came here. Yes, that first and foremost, we have ensured that there is a steady supply of the petroleum and oil products. There has been no shortage in the fuel stations, petrol stations, of these products since 3 years ago, actually, 2.5 years ago. Okay? Secondly, we have stabilized the prices of the petroleum products. In fact, in the last couple of months, the prices have steadily come down, albeit marginally. Okay? We have stabilized the electricity supply. Those national outages. Yes. Do you ever experience them? National outages. What about those localized power blackouts? You see? The last time I'm sure you heard about a national blackout was about a year ago or more. Okay. You see? So those are achievements.
We have a caller. We'll just pause and come to what a big regret might be. It would just be important to speak to that. But in the meantime, we have Dennis. We said Dennis is calling in. Dennis, good morning. Thank you for calling. Do you have a question for Waziri or comment you'd like to make?
Good morning, Janet and the members of the panel today.
Good morning.
I have a question. We've been in Loyangalani for the longest. We have the Lake Turkana wind power, which is yet to be connected to us. How can Waziri respond to that? Because we are still waiting for when we will be connected to the national grid.
What do you mean, Dennis?
Must be Masabit.
We are yet to be connected. The Loyangalani town, we are yet to be connected to the national grid. How long will we be waiting?
Okay. Let me assure you, our viewer, that there's a project which is underway that involves construction of a distribution line, in fact, transmission plus distribution line from Loyangalani wind farm to Loyangalani town. It's about 45 kilometers. That project is in 3 phases. The first phase is essentially complete. We are embarking on the second 2 phases. So my commitment is that come December, the latest, come December this year, the Loyangalani town and its environs will be connected to the national grid and will be supplied from the Loyangalani wind farm.
Is that the national grid or is that the local Loyangalani grid?
That is national grid because the wind farm, okay?
The wind farm brings power all the way to Suswa, where it then now connects to the national grid.
You must understand
what I'm asking that is,
yes,
if there's low wind,
yes,
and the wind farm, are the people of Loyangalani town going to be told,
you know, there is a substation at Loyangalani wind farm,
right?
Okay. That, of course, is connected to the national grid. National grid is a complex animal. Yes.
So there'll be stable power.
Okay.
Well, first and foremost, let me say there'll be power. Stability will come in as a secondary issue. Yes, because stability is a function of very many factors. Yes. But the key thing is that Loyangalani town has long been without power, yet power is being produced from wind just 45 kilometers away. That's the point it's raising.
Right.
Okay. And it must also understand, sorry to say this, that we also have a bigger plan in terms of constructing a transmission line from Loyangalani to Masabit and also from Isiolo to Masabit. This will then allow Masabit County to access power from other sources, especially geothermal sources and hydro sources. Yes. That is going to be done under the auspices of an Exim Bank of China funded project. Yes, already have a contractor on site, the China Construction and something company. Yes.
All right. There is an issue around consumer protection as far as our energy is concerned, and exactly how sometimes we see a lot of cases of fake products, fake fuel, all of that. But just before we get into that, we have another caller calling in. What's the name, Phil? Just to get it right.
Kamau.
Kamau. Okay, from Nyeri. Good morning, Kamau.
Good morning.
Good morning. What's your question for the CS?
My question is about the Petroleum Development Levy. And I'm looking at if you charge, for instance, okay, I can see it's almost like 30% of the whole value. And I'm wondering what happens if you're using this figure to counter the fluctuation of prices. What will happen if the prices are too much, say 10 times higher, 5 times higher? And maybe usually in Kenya we spend all the money that we have earned in that season. So what will happen, say for instance, 12 years ago you charge a certain figure, and then the next year the figure goes like 10 times higher. What will happen? And is it, as it says, is it not for development of petroleum activities, say petrochemical factories, say plastics and other developments, refineries and such? Is it just for catering for fluctuation of prices? Yeah.
That's a good question. Really, under the law, Petroleum Act of 2019, that levy has got many other roles other than stabilizing the petroleum prices. Okay? But we take petroleum price stabilization as a priority. Okay? For the reason that we want our consumers to operate within a predictable environment in terms of petroleum prices. Okay?
Yeah.
Definitely, we continue to monitor the trends as a ministry and also through our agency, key agency, EPRA. Yes. For now, I can only say that that levy has served us well. Of course, we are open to ideas. Yes, new ideas on how well or how best we can improve on it, on its management, yeah.
Okay. As you respond to Mariam's question, just to correct Kamau, the Petroleum Development Levy, Kamau, is 5 shillings and 40 cents. What is the highest of the levies is actually the road maintenance levy at 25 bob. And the excise duty at 21, of course, VAT.
And I'm sure Kamau knows that the road maintenance levy is not within my purview as a ministry. But it's also having its good purpose. It's helping us to improve on our road infrastructure in a very big way. Yeah. In a very, very big way.
Okay. We're completely out of time, but I don't know if, Mariam, you had a last...
Waziri,
just
some
on,
more time? Okay.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, just on the quality of fuel and assurances that are being made around our quality
Adulteration and all, just making sure that we have the right fuel at our stations.
Yes, our systems are so robust. Yes, our quality assurance systems are very, very robust, all the way from the port of Mombasa, okay? At what we call the Kipevu Oil Terminal 2, which receives our products from overseas, to the pumps. We have got a very, very elaborate monitoring mechanisms and systems by EPRA and other players. So Kenyans must rest assured that we will continue to be served with high quality, non-adulterated fuel products. Yes, now and into the future.
All right. I think that will be also one of the discussion points around
at
the Petroleum Summit today. Yes, happening 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. At the Radisson Blu. Of course, a very, very full agenda you've got. So I'm hoping the day goes well, and that a lot of these questions that we've asked also, can be answered by the various panels, industry experts, and yourself there as well.
Correct.
Yeah. We were trying to convince him to stay for another half hour, but
No, I wish I would
it
get
looks
more.
like he's saying goodbye.
But I'll come.
Thank you. Thank you, Cabinet Secretary Opiyo Wandayi. Ministry of Energy and Petroleum has been our guest. In the next hour, we speak to Mark Oko, Youth Coordinator, National Students Council of Kenya, to speak about youth and leadership. It's coming up to 8 a.m. on Fixing the Nation on NTV Nation FM and across our digital platforms. We'll be back after this short break.